Well, Grace, I've been wheeling and dealing so long today in the studio that I forgot I have not even ate. But that's okay. Why is that okay? Because the Brilliantly Dumb Show is presented to you by Postmates. For a limited time, Postmates is giving our listeners $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days using promo code BROBIBLE. $100 of free delivery credit with Postmates. Download that app now. Anything you need, anytime you need it, Postmate it.
That's perfect.
Yeah, you should be fine. They'll take care of all of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, just talk for me for a little bit. Just
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing
Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So move around, be comfortable, but if you can kind of try and stay in that
Sure.
general,
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Let me just adjust that arm.
Basically,
for you.
don't fucking move.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah. All right there. Right. Good.
All right.
right.
Yeah, we are
Good to rock and roll here.
great. All right. Yeah, we're recording, so
Let's
go
make
for
it
Rob.
happen.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, if you don't know the man sitting across from me, I would be kind of surprised because you should. This guy is anywhere and everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and give you the quick courtesy of giving you the Wikipedia description. Sir Jordan Belfort here, an American author, motivational speaker, and former stockbroker. In 1999, pleaded guilty to fraud and related crimes in
There you
connection
go.
with stock market manipulation into a penny scam. He published the memoir The Wolf of Wall Street in 2007, which was adapted into a film with the same name and released in 2013. Jordan, I gave you the follow you on Instagram and all that. You don't stop, man. You're a machine.
You know, I think that, to me, when I'm sitting still doing nothing, I feel like I'm like sort of heading down to the grave. It's like, to me, I feel most alive and like really am at my most vibrant self when I'm moving, when I'm talking, when I'm sharing. And I think that most people are like that. I think that either you're growing or you're dying. If you're trying to stay in the same spot and maintain, it's the beginning of the end of greatness. So I just live my life that way. I'm not even trying to do it. It's just the way I've always been.
I said to you, earlier before you hopped on, you got that East Coast, mentality where it's just pedal to the metal, ram it down your throat, and I like it. My question for you is, at what point, was in 2011, wasn't it when you realized that you wanted to do a podcast, be a motivational speaker? When did you realize you wanted to then do that?
So, for me, I had been motivating people since I was in my early 20s, and I always had my own businesses, and I built sales forces, and as part of that, I realized very early it was instrumental that it's not just about teaching people to close, which is important, the skill of persuasion, and I teach that, but also, how do you ensure that someone shows up every day at the top of their game, so to speak? It's important in athletics. It's important in business. It's important certainly in sales, especially in sales when it's about, transferring an emotion to someone else, so the emotion of certainty. So there's two parts. There's the skill side, then there's the mindset side. So that always is motivating, and motivation is a daily shot in the arm that allows someone to show up and be the best they could be in that day.
Right.
It's very different than the skill of closing. So I had always taught both and instilled both in everybody that I groomed to be a manager of my people, right? So back in 2000, and I think it was 6, got out of jail. So I had this massive company, right? And I made mistakes. I went to jail. I deserved to, and that's that, right? But I, by happenstance, ended up in jail with Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong.
Get the fuck
was
out.
my bunkmate. We shared a cell together.
Were you top bunk or bottom bunk?
No, he was side by side.
Side by side bunk, okay.
Side by side, right? And Tommy was the one that convinced me to write a book. So I started writing in jail. I taught myself to write in jail. Didn't really write the book there. And I got out, wrote the book, and things started to happen, And the book picked up a lot of acclaim because right away Leo DiCaprio and Scorsese attached to make it into the movie. So I wrote a second book. And I finished that book. And then I was going to write
Was this after they had already made the movie?
No, long before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is 2008. 2009, and then the movie came out in 14, end of 13, beginning of 14, and then what happened is I was on my third book now, and I was up in a place called Mendocino in Northern California with my then wife, and I'm miserable because I hate to write. I hate writing.
That surprises me.
hate. If there's one thing in this world I hate, it's writing.
To write.
And I just started writing another book right now, but I hate doing it. And at that time, I had almost deluded myself into thinking I was going to be, a professional writer. I mean, just write book after book after book because they were doing well, and I just, be like a Tom Clancy type of whatever, right? And what happened was, my wife's like, "What's wrong? Why?" I said, "I just hate doing this. It's boring me. I feel disconnected. I just, hate it." So we sat down. We said, maybe we should just change direction. We're partners. We're a team, and I made a conscious decision to become a speaker because I was always a great motivator. And at the time, I was known in Wall Street area, but not really much outside. The book had done really well, but it wasn't after the movie. So I made that switch because here's the thing: it's an important point for people is that there's when you think about what I want to do to want to get rich doing A, B, C, right? Well, people say I want to monetize my passion. Well, that's a lot of bullshit a lot of the times because it's not. Maybe your passion's not monetizable, and maybe you suck at your passion. I was a really good writer, but I hated doing it. All right, so to try to monetize that when it's not my passion, I despise it. Or maybe it can make money, but I'll be miserable. The idea is to A, find something that you love doing, and B, that you're actually really good at doing, and that C is monetizable. Can you make money?
When you were in the process of writing this book, and when you were serving, how fascinated were the other inmates in you? Did they go to you for advice and guidance?
Yes,
they did.
So
they knew you. They knew who you were.
Yes, and I actually was running. I was running the drug program. So I went through this drug program in prison, which everyone goes through because you get a year off your sentence, right?
Got to do it.
And I was in this group of 50 people, and within the third or fourth session, I was running the group already. And the actual head of the prison, the warden, called me and said, "Hey, we want you to run the program."
Which you had no problem with.
Yeah, sure. Because I was just really good with that sort of psychology, and I understood the mindset of drug addicts as an ex-drug addict, right? And I always was mentoring people in jail and helping. People were reading my early pages and laughing, and I was like, wow, are they just laughing because they're trying to make me feel good? You didn't know,
Right.
But yeah, it was pretty well known.
And then, do you remember where you were when you found out that now they're going to be making a movie?
Yes.
So where were you?
Manhattan Beach Country Club.
Jesus Christ.
I'll never forget. I was at the club, and I wasn't even a member yet back then. I was just someone's guest, and my phone rings, and it's my agent, Scott Lambert, saying to me, "You're not going to believe this, but there's a bidding war right now between Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, and both sides have said whatever one side pays, I'll pay 10% more."
So
I'm like,
their
holy
teams are
shit.
bidding off
it's
on
public.
this.
That's public information.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
So the next day, an article came out about it that there was this big bidding war, and they made it like Brad and Leo were enemies, and it was just bullshit. They were just both bidding on the same project.
It
right?
helps you though.
Yeah. It was really interesting. It was a funny story. So what happened was, so the bidding kept going up and up that weekend. Every side saying, "I'll pay you 10% more," and there was actually also Mark Wahlberg wanted the picture. But back then, I love Mark Wahlberg. He was he wasn't as big a star back then.
Right.
Now he's huge, right?
Now, but even while the bidding's going on, do you have a preference, like saying, I hope Leo wins it, or I hope Brad Pitt wins it?
Well, it was up to me. It wasn't winning it. I had choice. It was my
ultimate
choice. Oh yeah, my choice.
Who was your preference?
So I always loved Leo. I like Brad Pitt too. But I thought that Leo was better. And then what happened was Leo said, "Hey, I got Marty Scorsese. He's going to agree to direct it."
Done deal.
And that was that.
Instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? It's got to be nice that if somebody would to play your life, at least it's going to be Leonardo DiCaprio.
Not Danny DeVito?
Yeah.
And I love Danny DeVito, but
yeah, I would get Jack Black.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Just
right?
something like that.
It was a great thing. I had two really, I guess, of the best looking actors, right, and the most talented actors in the world. So it was pretty good. I was saying, I'm doing pretty good about this, So, yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing moment for me. It was disbelief at that point. Okay. But, the funny part was that when I called a couple of when it started happening, my friends were like, "Yeah, that figures."
Makes sense.
So, well, what else would it be? With your life has always been like this. Whatever you do, it's no shock. That this is happening.
It's bound to happen.
Right. So, I was like, maybe that's true, but I'll tell you what, this is I knew it was an extraordinary thing.
And then what was prepping this with Leonardo DiCaprio? Do you guys just go out to lunch? Is he spending time with you?
About a year of a lot of time spending together. Just doing everything. Not just, some formal, something like that, just going out and hanging out, but then stuff formally, working on certain aspects, working with dialect coaches, going through the script line by line, dissecting every word, changing things, strategizing on certain scenes. I think the funniest story was when I was in his house and Leo's never done drugs.
See, I would see him dabbling a little bit.
No, never done drugs. He drinks, but he's never done drugs. And he's like, what does it feel like to be on a Quaalude? And what does it look like? How do I act? I said, well, let me just give you an explanation. I take him through the different phases of a Quaalude high, starting with the tingle phase where your fingertips are tingling. Then there's this slur phase where you're slurring your words, but you don't care because slurring is okay. Baby slur, you slur, slurring's cool, right? Then you go from there to the drool phase where you're like talking and drool's coming out. But you're like, oh, baby's drooling, I drool, and that's good too. And then the last phase is unconsciousness. So I'm actually taking him through this, and I'm crawling on his floor. I go, and then he's like crawling on his floor, trying to mimic me. And his father walks. He's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? We're like crawling on the floor. He's like, no, just acting, yeah. Yeah.
And then to see, and like even talking to you, what's amazing to me is he nailed it.
He did.
I mean, was it weird to then see it then come to life?
It was, yes. I won't, I don't want to, so it's hard to recreate in this moment what I felt the first time I actually saw this on the screen. But before I saw it, my agent saw it. Well, it wasn't my agent, but my agent's wife, woman Alexandra Milshon, really well respected, a brilliant producer of movies and TV series. In fact, her dad's Arnon Milshon, who owns New Regency, so she, very, very well respected family, and she's the best. And she saw it before I did.
Before you got to.
I was overseas when there was a private cut that came out, and I was just away. I was on tour, and she was going to see it and in L.A., and I'm waiting for her, and she calls me back, and I said, well, she's like, I don't know what to say. She goes, I cannot describe what I've just seen. She goes, I'm out of breath. She goes, let me just promise you one thing. Your life will never be the same again when this movie comes out. She goes, I don't know how to quite describe it. It was so, I'm like, good, bad? She goes, good, but it wasn't just good. It's like I've never seen anything like it before.
Did you?
I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I just trust me. When you see it, you'll know. And then when I saw it, I was like,
you thought the same thing?
When it was over, I saw it with my wife at the time, and they're like, holy fucking shit! I felt, it was like the Matthew McConaughey when he in the marker. She goes, holy fucking shit! That's how I felt, and it's still to this day. Whenever I watch the movie or see scenes, and he says my name, it still sounds weird to have someone else saying Jordan Belfort,
right,
and it not being me. And but it was listen, some parts were tough because they were fictionalized, and they were things that I did that weren't true, that were terrible, like punching my wife in the stomach, which I never did.
Right.
But like I took that in stride. It was a fictionalized movie, and it was based on truth. Much of it was true. There was some parts fictionalized. But all in all, and those parts he had called me before. It was like a shock. He called me. He goes, hey, I want your permission. They want me to do this. He's very respectful, Leo. He's a great guy. And he's like, I want to make sure you're okay with this because didn't actually happen. I'm like, yeah, do what you got to do. I understand it's a movie,
You know what's amazing that I wanted to ask you? I heard Leonardo DiCaprio in an interview where he's talking about you, and he says that it's amazing and he's shocked that you're still alive going through what you went through. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do, in the sense that there's two sides to it. There's all the near-death experiences I had along the way with plane crashes and yacht sinkings and all the stuff. Then there's the sheer fact that I just didn't overdose.
So the yacht did sink.
Oh, yeah.
Son of a bitch. You watched that sucker go down?
I did. Indeed, I did. It was much worse than the movie. That scene was really underplayed for budgetary reasons because it was a long, drawn-out, terrible, crazy process that went on for about 18 hours, and it was just wild. And the plane crashed as well. that but it was a week later. Not while I wasn't watching it crash as I was on the boat that saved us, but it crashed a week later. But I think, for me, when I looked at that movie overall, mostly it was like, I just can't believe that was my life, and it seemed normal at the time. At the time, so you say, well, did I make it? How did I live? I mean, at the time, it just seemed like I was putting one foot in front of the other and just living my life. It didn't seem that insane, because what you do is you surround yourself with other people who are living just like
that are
you,
doing the same thing. Right.
Yeah.
And was there ever a time, like, I think even, throughout the movie, you're kind of hoping to yourself, I know I was just like, okay, get out now. You know, you made your money, get out. Was there that time where you said?
I did, though. Yes, that's the fictionalized part. So the fictionalized part is there's the scene where the Jonah Hill character, right?
He was great.
He was great. Right?
Awesome.
The movie, Donnie Ace. His real name is Danny. They call him Donnie, right? And so basically, I'm saying, fuck it, I'm leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm staying. Right? The show. That's
Which is like,
that's not true though.
So that did not happen.
No, I'm not stupid. I left.
Right.
And I was running. This guy Danny took over the firm, and a lot of things that went on, what he was doing, that was saying I was doing him. But also in that, the Danny character was like the catch-all character for all bad behavior. So in other words, what happens a lot in movies is they collapse characters. So they'll take 4 or 5 characters and they'll collapse it into one character.
One person, right?
Right. So that's the Danny character got the whole lot of stuff,
brunt of everything.
Yeah, everything. So,
right.
Yeah. In some ways he was worse, and in other ways he wasn't as bad as that, because they just collapsed other characters' behaviors into him.
Right.
So, but that iconic scene, which was a great scene, I gave that speech, and it was identical, that speech, and it's in the book. And then instead of saying the show goes on, I gave the mic to Danny and walked off, not into the sunset. Then I was running the firm from behind the scenes for about a year or so, and then I kind of faded away. I started running Steve Madden's Shoes, was my other company,
right? Which does take place in the movie as well.
That was right, and that was really heavily fictionalized in the movie, because it was much. The truth was, Steve was not it was a startup. When Steve came to me, he wasn't a big shoe company. He was tiny. He was just getting started, and I financed it. And then Steve and I were partners, and I worked at the company for years together. He's great. Steve's a brilliant guy. And then it became Steve Madden. So in the movie, it's like that he was already the hottest name. No, he was actually a startup, Steve.
So did DiCaprio or any of them tell you certain things would work better if we do have to fictionalize this? Like even as far as the speech?
No, the point was that one speech where I said, fuck it, I'm not leaving. The show goes on, right? When I saw them, I'm like, that makes me look like I'm an idiot. I'm out of control. I've lost my touch with reality. Like, who the hell would stay when they can get away with it scot-free like that, right? But I understood why they were doing it. It wasn't designed to hurt me they weren't doing it to try to screw me over. This actually made the movie a better movie because it kept the action in the boardroom. In other words, it just would made it more. If it was a TV series, which it's going to be, by the way, we're making it into a TV series.
Are you really?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. So in a TV series, you would draw that. You could do it. You could develop all these subplots. I'm leaving, but running it behind the scenes, and all this sort of intrigue. That would be great. It's a whole season of how now I lift the firm and I'm still running it. In a movie, you don't have that much time. They want to keep the action in the same location. See me, degenerating into insanity, staying there. When in fact, I was degenerating into insanity, but in other places, in other ways. So there's so many different subplots.
Right. It really is. It's just absolutely fascinating to even just to hear the backstory of when what went behind it, and just kind of everything that went into it. What if there is what was the moment when you knew you had to get out? Was there a specific thing that happened where you said, okay, I do got to get out of here, when you did make that move?
Well, what happened was like the movie says, is the SEC was suing me, and they offered me a settlement. And I paid them, I think, $3 million, which is a lot more money back then, and then to be permanently barred from owning a brokerage firm. Not from investing in stocks, just owning a firm, right? And in that moment, I had 2 junior partners, right? One was Danny, the other guy was named Kenny. And Danny was the sharper one of the two. So, like, I had a deal. Danny was going to stay behind and run the firm in my name, basically, right? Now I get these, you continue to get paid out over time, blah, 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 right?
It seems like a pretty good deal.
It was a good deal, right? So I took that deal. I took that deal. And I had this moment in time, like I think a 30-day period maybe, where I sailed off into the sunset and I went to Europe and, you know, we had some fun. And then I came back. And as soon as I came back, got hit with a subpoena from the FBI.
It's the day you got
like
back.
within a few days of coming back, I got hit with a subpoena saying that was a criminal investigation. So in other words, there's a very big difference. And these are things that in the movie that really weren't distinguished because it's just too complicated. That, you know, you're being investigated both civilly and criminally. Civilly is the SEC, criminally is the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office. So just because you settle a civil case, and they do say this in the movie, doesn't mean that you automatically now have no criminal liability. They can still come after you for criminal liability. Chances are somewhat reduced, but whatever. So as soon as I had settled, see, the FBI then came in and kept investigating. It wasn't because I stayed. So in the movie, that this weird narrative that was just fictionalized. So anyway, but that wasn't even a problem. It was certainly not a good day in my life when I knew I was under criminal investigation. But I was like, you know, whatever. Most of what I was doing was legal. It was very difficult to prove what I'd done illegally. It was, you know, defined to a very small part of my business. It wasn't like Bernie Madoff, where just anyone that actually looked at it, you say, wait a second, it's fraud.
Right.
That was not what I was. I had a real firm. You had to really find like 95% was all on above board. And there was one little thing I was doing, you know, and whatever, a separate issue. Anyway, the point is that what ultimately got me, though, was smuggling money to Switzerland. It wasn't the brokerage
That's
firm.
what they ended up charging you with.
Yes, that's what happened. I got caught for, and it was just by sheer dumb luck, the same banker that I was using to launder my money was caught up in some sting with Rocky Aoki from Benihana, that whole guy. I don't even think Rocky Aoki I think it was Rocky Aoki was under investigation.
Have you ate at Benihana since?
Yeah. So no, it's funny because I don't know what really happened to Rocky. I don't think it was some of the rumblings.
Right.
But the point was my guy got picked up because of that investigation.
That led then over to
and that led
you.
me to me. Yeah. He flipped on me, that guy.
What is the why? You know, of course, and it's got to be bizarre for you to look back on and watch. If you could say, what was probably the main thing that you miss from that lifestyle? Of course, you've changed things, but what do you miss from it? Is it the money? Is it the women? The
no,
Quaaludes?
listen. You know, I'm fortunate enough that I do well financially still. I have a beautiful girl in my life. It's not like that. It's not that. It's certainly not the drugs. If anything, it would be the camaraderie of taking thousands of people and having them in one room, and it became its own independent society where, you know, just everyone was getting older together, getting married, having children together. There was all this intrigue and sort of stuff going on with all these people that were the same age going through life together and just experiencing this madness.
From something that you create.
Yeah, and that was really cool. Now, I get that now, but in a more disconnected way because I go around the world and I you know, coach and mentor people. People come to my events, and they're huge events with thousands of people. The difference, though, is that I don't get to see them every single day, and I hear from them in emails, thank you, you changed my life. I get all these emails every day, you changed my life, you changed my life. You know, I'm a huge fan, blah, blah, but it's not like when it's that in your sphere of influence every day, and you're watching them get that first house, have their child, you know, you go through we used to say everything existed within the four walls of the boardroom. There was births, there was deaths, there was love, there was betrayal, there was hate, there was greed, there was fear. All the best and worst of humanity was in that boardroom in full display on steroids.
Right.
And everyone was fucking everybody because it was before the Me Too era. You know, so there was this total
just nonstop
free for all, and there was no sexual harassment at all. Though that was not part of the culture at all. The girls were equally happy to be involved, or because if they weren't, and they were hassled, guys would kick if you were like, no girl was being harassed in our office. If you were, the guys would kick guy's ass.
Kick the piss out of him?
Oh, yeah. Because like there was respect for women, but the women were as crazy as the guys. They were just like full on. There was it wasn't like that. And anyone that doubts that, I saw my assistant, who's still a friend of mine, name's Mona. Mona's awesome, right? And we were about maybe 3 years ago. I was at an event in New York, and she came, and she was telling everybody, "You girls don't know what we had. It's so good. It was so great. It was the most empowering place because any girl could be a bro. It was like man, women. It was purely an egalitarian society."
So you still keep in touch with a lot of people from the office?
I do, yeah.
That's awesome.
I do, especially the ones that were friends of mine before. It all happened. I lost touch. You lose touch with people because everyone moves away and goes on with life. But the culture that we had, it was not. It's very different, like a Weinstein-esque sort of thing where sleep with me to get apart. No, it's like if you want to fuck me, fuck me. If not, who cares? I'll fuck someone else.
Jordan, how many times a day do you think you were banging?
Me?
In your prime, how many times a day were you banging? Was it just nonsense? Was it deals and sex, deals and sex, deals and sex? A little bit of drugs
in the
thrown
movie,
in there?
Matthew McConaughey said he's got to at least jerk off 3 times a
Three
day.
times.
Maybe that's his rookie number. Going to pump the numbers up, right? So
You believe those are rookie numbers?
Yeah, at least. It's funny. I don't jerk off as much anymore. Back in my prime, I was fucking pumping them out, though. Of course.
But you didn't have to. That's your prime. You didn't have to jerk off.
Yeah, but jerking off's amazing, though.
Yeah, you do, because you kind of get to know yourself a little bit more.
Self-love is a very important part of life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on.
So out of the beautiful woman, there was times where you just said, you know what? I just want time. I just want to
No,
yank
sit in
my
my
meat.
face while I jerk off. Basically.
Okay,
You know, like I want a woman around, but I don't mind. A little self-love feels good. Or by myself, I'm like okay either way with that. But the point is that, in terms of how many times I was having sex, it was. Listen, in the early days, it was really, really bad. But in the latter part, a lot of the drugs, this is before Viagra. So you'd be doing like massive quantities of coke, and then you couldn't get it up, and you'd be with a hooker, and she's like, giving you a blowjob. You're like, oh, it's fine. It's soft. Keep going. It's fine. It still feels good. All you coke addicts know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, it feels great. Yeah, just keep going. Give me 5 more hours. I'll come. I'll get hard. Just give me some time. Yeah. But that was many, many years ago. But yeah, I was having a massive amount of sex with a lot of partners. I did my best dating after I was married, I would say.
Right.
But that's my old life. I mean, I'm a very different person today. I was in a relationship with a woman for about 12 years, and I was faithful to her. Never cheated in 12 years in the last relationship I was with. And now I'm with someone else who's awesome, and I'm faithful now. But as you get older, I think to me it's just too much work. I mean, and I don't want to lie and have to deal with the lying and once you start,
That's funny. You know what, Jordan? You may just keep jerking off.
Yeah.
I mean, you just really could never go wrong with
you
jerking
really
off.
can't, especially with Pornhub these days. I mean, I've never actually been in it myself, but I have friends told me about it.
Yeah.
This thing called,
There's a little bit of everything.
You heard about that, right? That's the difference, though. It's like back then, if you wanted to, like when I was growing up. If you want to get hold of like a Playboy magazine, you stick it under your bed. It was a big deal. Maybe you'd see like a pussy, but like you'd see like a half a shot, like behind. Now you say, I want my fantasy is I want to watch a horse fuck a pig while the woman's sitting bareback on the bed. It's 85 videos.
You're gonna get a horse fucking a pig.
3 midgets jerking off in the background. Oh, there it is. It's 54 videos like that. Every fetish, every fantasy is there on full display.
Speaking of jerking off, I've jerked off to Margot Robbie multiple times. Did you have a lot of contact with her throughout the movie?
I did. And Margot is one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
She seems it.
She is, and one of the funniest experiences I have with Margot was the first time I met her in person, and I was with Leo and Jonah, and we were in a hotel room in New York, the Mandarin Oriental, and we were actually having dinner that night with the producers. So we were all dressed up, and then Leo's like, listen, Margot wants to meet you because she wants to talk to you about your ex-wife, and she wants to kind of understand you and the character better. So I was like, great. So we were hanging out most of that day together, Leo and I and Jonah, and then at like 5 p.m., the phone rings. It's Margot. We're in a hotel room. Like, all right, send her up. And she walks in, and she's dressed like for a really nice dinner with high heels, short skirt, plunging neckline, done up makeup, the whole frickin' thing. And Margot is so beautiful. She's one of those girls that literally sucks the air out of a room. When she walks into a room with just males, it's like there was 3 males, and Margot walks like there was no oxygen. Like the room, like it was a fundamental shift in the fabric of the universe when she walked into the room. There really was. And we're like trying to keep a straight face here. Like she just walks in and she's just like so striking looking, right? And so she's like, oh, she gives me a big hug, and she's like, how are you? Great. And so Leo's like, listen, Margot, Jordan said you can ask me anything. She's like, oh, great. And Leo's like, just ask away. She's like, oh, my God, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. She takes a chair, and she pulls up a chair. She's maybe 3 feet across me. She sits down, crosses her long, bare legs. She has a high heel dangling. And she looks at me with this big blue eyes. She's like, so, tell me. She said, what was it about your wife that you like so much? What was it about her? I'm like, you're kidding, Margot, right? She said, no, seriously. I'm like, this. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, Margot, this. She's like, oh, no. I mean, really. I mean, no. Was it a certain zest she had for life? Was it like a way? I'm like, no, Margot. I hated her. this. I despised every bone in her. Just this. She's like, no, really? I'm like, really, Margot?
Just go make the movie.
She's like, really? I'm like, really, Margot? I'm like, I don't know if you realize how hot you are, Margot. She doesn't realize.
Did she not pick up? Did it take her a while to
no,
pick
she's not
up
that
on
she's
it?
not smart. She's very smart, Margot, but she's like really, I think she's very pure of heart. She's a really good person. She's a really good person,
Right.
Margot. She really is. She is just not an asshole. She's just a good soul.
Makes you like her even
that is an
more.
incredibly great actress, and she doesn't try to trade on her look. She's just really talented and she's a really talented, nice person who happens to be gorgeous.
You know what's amazing too is like, you think the role Leonardo played, and you think what you don't see is you kind of had to direct them as far as they had to be picking your brain while making this movie.
Well, Leo, literally,
but you're getting it from all angles.
he
You have
left
Jonah
nothing.
Hill.
Yeah, but he left nothing. Yeah, I met with all of them, but Leo left nothing up to chance. He prepared for this, and I think people don't know that. They say, "Oh, he's just so talented and he's handsome." But he is those things. But he works really hard. He takes things really seriously. Leo literally struggled over every single word in that script, literally with me and Marty going. It was his passion project, Leo. So it wasn't a normal movie for him. It was not like his other movies. You can ask him that. If you ever have a chance to interview him, he'll tell you. It was not his, Leo's done every movie, and then there was Wolf of Wall Street was different for him. And he told it to me from the very beginning. He goes, I'm going to make this movie. He's like, just I promise. He looked me in the eye. He goes, I'm going to make this. There was times when it was very difficult to make because, it's an R-rated movie. The shit's hitting the fan on Wall Street. The budget was coming in high. And Leo was like, I promise you, because he's attached to 100 films, and they're like saying, oh, Leo's doing this next week. Leo's doing this. He's doing that movie. This movie. He's like, just, buddy, I promise you this one is different.
And you believed him when he told you
I
that.
did.
You
And
knew.
also, whenever my friends would run into him, anyone I know would see Leo, they'd always come up to Leo and say, oh, I'm friends with Jordan. He was always very gracious about that. He would sit down and he'd say, just, oh, my God. And he'd always would say, I am so excited. This is not my regular. This is my passion. I'm making this movie. So it's pretty obvious. Everyone knew that this was Leo's passion project.
So dinner time, Rob. What are you thinking?
Al, I actually think I'm gonna go with my 4th dish of chicken parm this week.
You're a chicken parmaholic, bro.
Can't stop.
Yeah.
And I can get it anytime I want, anytime I need it.
You can.
You know how?
No, tell me.
Using the Postmates app.
I love it.
From an early morning breakfast burrito to a bottle of wine after work, maybe that bottle of wine turns into 3 bottles of wine, Alex. You could Postmate some Advil too. They do it all over at Postmates. For a limited time only, Postmates is giving our listeners $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days. To start your free deliveries, download the app and use code BROBIBLE. That's code BROBIBLE for $100 of free delivery credit with no minimum purchase for your first 7 days when you download the Postmates app. Alex, that's a lot of fucking bottles of wine right
And
there.
chicken parm.
And chicken parms.
A little bit of both.
Anything you need, anytime you need it, Postmate it.
Knew that
dig
this
it.
is Leo's passion project.
And how much did it change from when he first started doing, whether it's your impressions of you or not, to the final product? Did you just watch it grow to
So
where it
there's
looked
two
more and
aspects
more?
to this thing. There's really a couple of really interesting things about that. Number one is that the initial draft of the movie was written by Terry Winter.
Okay.
Boardwalk Empire, Sopranos, right?
Right.
Just brilliant writer, nicest guy in the world. He adapted my book, and he just literally, the first draft was unbelievable. It was the movie that you saw. The first draft
On the
with,
first
with
one.
the first draft, with some minor alterations to it, except for one important thing. So what happens, he writes this draft, and everyone reads it like, holy shit, it's amazing.
You yourself, you loved it.
Everyone loved it, right? And Warner Brothers loved it. And it gets greenlit. It's just about to get started, and the writer's strike hits. Remember the writer's strike in 2007?
Yes.
So what happens is the movie needed a polish, and everyone had to put their pens down. So Terry was unable to polish the script, and Marty and Leo went on and did Shutter Island instead because that was ready.
How devastated were you?
Beyond devastated. So that, to me, my book wasn't even out yet. It was just about to come out, and I was on this trajectory to like write as a first-time author, to have a book and a movie. It was like unheard of. That because the likelihood of getting a book, of writing a book and it getting published is 1 in a million. The likelihood of someone buying it in Hollywood is 1 in 5 million, and it getting made is 1 in a billion. Like,
and then throw Leonardo.
and then
on
Liz,
there.
1 in a trillion. Never happened.
Scorsese.
Right? So it's such a, and I was having all of this. It was like, I'm like, am I blessed or something, right? And then the writer's strike hits, and it's over. And just like that, everything dies. And Marty, because he's a director, it takes him a lot longer for each project. So Leo can theoretically do a movie every 3 months. He doesn't, but he could.
Right.
Like, that's why you see some actors are very busy, like Brad Pitt or even Mark Wahlberg.
He doesn't stop.
Right, because they're actors. But directors, so Marty has to live with a picture for a year and a half, right? Marty's passion project was not Wolf of Wall Street. It was a movie called Silence, and which came out, and right, it was critically acclaimed, but was not commercially successful. It was never meant to be. It was his passion. It was about, more about religion and stuff like that. So anyway, so once this window passed, I was screwed. It was closed, and we couldn't get Marty to come back to the table. So what happened now? Now flash back to what I first said about about your monetizing your passion. So now I'm in Mendocino writing and saying to myself, this is terrible. I hate writing, and I decided to become a speaker. So I make this conscious decision to start going out there and speaking. To make a long story short, ultimately, after some time, very hard work, I built this speaking business up and started making massive money again. It became very successful before the movie came out. And I was going all over the world, making millions and millions of dollars as a speaker and trainer, teaching sales and persuasion in a system called the Straight Line. So now, flash forward 2012, it's 5 years later, right? I'm rich again. And out of nowhere, I get a call from Leo. Buddy, you're never going to believe this. What? We're good to go. Marty's back in. We're going to make the movie now because I'm coming over to your house. Where do you – he goes, give me the address again. I forgot. I'm like, well, I live in a new house now, and I gave him my new address. The first time he came to my house, I was living in a tiny shack. I just was got out of jail, right? I was living in a tiny place, right? So I give him – when he comes to the house, it's a mansion on the ocean, on the beach. He walks in. He's like, what the fuck happened to you? What happened? How'd you get rich again? I said, I go around, I teach sales. He goes, I said, let me show you. So I put up a video on my TV of me speaking for like 5,000 or 6,000 people. And he starts looking, he's like, holy shit, wait till Marty sees this. He sent it to Marty. They rewrote the entire third act of the movie. Now, so the movie now, there's an infomercial in there. There's all the sales training. It ends with sell me this pen. So what happened was
Leo was loving it.
Well, what happened was the point was the first draft, the one that Terry wrote, it ended with me in jail. The movie ended with me in jail. That was the fun, because that was my life. I just got out of jail, so that as the movie ended. Over those 5 years, I rebuilt my life, got wealthy again, and they changed the movie to reflect and made it a comeback story. So the movie, in those 5 years, I rewrote my own life story. Essentially, my life story changed while it was being made, and the movie was infinitely better as a comeback story. And what that did for my business, obviously, now ending with a seminar. So my seminar business then exploded.
Had to.
You get it?
Had to.
And it was my brand, The Straight Line, was on there. I teach, this system called The Straight Line. And it became this incredible movie that was embraced by people all over the world, and that's the story.
Do you, for me, even thinking about Leonardo DiCaprio now coming to your, how do you prep for Leonardo coming to your house? You put out chips and dip? I mean, it's just got to be so much shit rolling through your head.
Nah, Leo's just not like that. He's like a very average guy, He's just, this is like, Leo is, it's not like that at all.
And getting that call from him, I mean, you had to be over the moon.
No, yeah, I was somewhat skeptical. Not that I didn't trust Leo, just that it was just like it wasn't quite that. Like there were rumblings. There was a lot of rumblings over the years. It was always about Scorsese, not Leo. Leo was committed every step of the way, and he was always promising me he would get it done. Now we had many directors that wanted to do it. We had Todd Phillips, wanted to direct it. I love Todd Phillips.
Right.
Okay, who did Joker. Okay, and did Hangover, and he got it. Todd Phillips. I met Todd. He really got it. He understood the comic edge of it, right? Because it was a comedy. It was sort of ended up being, right? And dark comedy was a comedy for sure, right? Ridley Scott wanted to direct. We actually had a deal. We had a deal with Ridley Scott. He signed off on it. Then they wouldn't let him out of doing that movie Prometheus. So it was like there was some rumblings, and every rumbling always was with Leo as the lead. It was never about Leo. It was always Scorsese. So, but Marty was really intent on doing this picture Silence, and Marty works very slowly. So I think he did in all those years between when he ended up doing Shutter Island. I think he only did Hugo, maybe.
When he was coming out with those movies, because obviously there was a big halt put on it, would you be lying to say when those were coming out, you were kind of hoping that those bombed so that he keeps kind of saying, I should have done Wolf of Wall Street, should have done Wolf of Wall Street?
No. First of all, Marty Scorsese, there are no bombs.
Yeah, that's a very
He
good
just
point.
does not bomb. And it's just a question of, like when he did this picture Silence, and it wasn't a commercial big success. It wasn't meant to be. It was Marty's like trifecta for 3 movies he done. One called The Mission, the other one called I think The Last Temptation of Christ, and this was third in a triumvirate of religious movies that I think Marty looks as his redemption of his own life.
Yeah, his own.
So Marty, I think Wolf is his most successful movie of all time. But there's something interesting about Marty is that what he does, I think, better than anyone in the world is that Marty puts up characters that are not being judged. In other words,
what do you mean by that?
In other words, I don't know about you or the listeners here, but the one thing I hate more than anything when I'm watching a movie or a TV series is when they tell me how to feel. Don't moralize to me. Don't telegraph. Don't have the kid kill a cat. So, I'm supposed to hate that kid.
Let the viewer be
Let me see things as they really are in life and then make my own decisions. So when I'm watching a movie and the characters are obviously bad and obviously good, that's who I should love, that's who I should hate, and they could do it with one look. It could be one look, one tiny thing. All they had to do with The Wolf of Wall Street was have me do one thing wrong, differently, and I'm an unredeemable asshole.
Right.
But Marty understands that life is far more complex. There's no absolute good. There's no absolute bad. Good people do bad things, and bad people do good things. So what Marty does is I'm going to put characters on display, and as they really are in life, and let the audience decide how they want to feel.
Right.
That's what
you had to
That's
appreciate.
why people connect to his movies so deeply, because he could take flawed characters. I was a flawed character, no doubt about it. There was things I did that were reprehensible, but also things I did that were amazing. It was every person's dream, everyone's nightmare. They're saying that Marty Scorsese glamorized the use of drugs and glamorized Wall Street and obscene wealth, right? You know what? It's glamorous. He didn't glamorize it. It's glamorous.
Well, and it's the way that it happened.
Well, the point is, it is what it is, but Marty isn't trying to say, okay, it's glamorous, so we need to then inject some disaster in there so the audience knows that you're not supposed to like this person. He understands people are smart enough to know that good people do bad things, bad people. You understand? That's the point. And that's why his movies ring true to people. When people watch them again and again and again, they hold up over time because they're not moralized. Because what happens with morality? It changes from year to year. What's acceptable in this generation or the next 5 years would be considered completely wildly unacceptable or acceptable. It's not acceptable now. 5 years. Like 5 years ago, you could do things you could never do today, right? So Marty doesn't try to moralize based on what society says this moment.
Would you credit a lot of what he did to you being able to make a comeback?
I made the comeback before the movie.
Okay.
No, it just was. If it was icing on the cake, I would never. I remember I had one conversation with my book agent, wonderful guy, and when I decided I didn't want to be a writer anymore and I wanted to go out and start speaking, I was in my car. My wife and I, we called him on the cell phone. It was speakerphone. I said, "Hey, Joel," I said, I want to just tell you something right now. I've decided I'm going to become a motivational speaker, and I'm going to go out there across the world and do events. He's like, "Oh, that's great. You'll be great at it. You just got to wait till the movie comes out. Just wait till they come for you." And in that moment, I almost wanted to pull the. I was so angry.
You had to be ticked.
I was like, and he didn't mean anything bad by that.
Right.
I was like, Joel, if you think that I'm going to wait for someone else to take action so then I can do what I want, I will do it with the movie. I'll do it without the movie. And ironically, by doing it without the movie, made the movie an infinitely better movie because it changed the ending of the movie. I didn't wait to become successful for The Wolf of Wall Street. I became successful and it changed The Wolf of Wall Street. I influenced my own life story because if you wait for other people to hand you things or do things, you can get whatever you want in life, but you have to have a plan to get there, take massive action, all the things that people that are empowered do. This is not like some big secret I'm telling people, but the point is that I actually live this at a very high level every day. I don't use other people's actions as either excuses or even though, I was successful because of, everything helps. Everything happens as it is. You can either take action in one way or take no action or take it another way. And the ball's in your court. It's up to you what you want to do with what life hands you. Life's going to hand you good stuff, bad stuff. There's opportunities every single day. And, people say, "Oh, I got lucky." Well, luck is when hard work meets opportunity.
Right. I would say it's just, you talk about just a roller coaster of a life. I think to keep it going, I mean, you kind of got to have the energy that you do in order to sustain it.
Well, I think that, remember this, I think that energy is not a constant, and you could have you could be out of energy. You could be tapped. Like, I can't go on. I'm too tired. I'm bored. I'm uninspired. Then one little thing happens. And you are recharged, and you're 10 years old again, ready to take over the freaking world.
Right.
I will not deny to anyone listening to this, I have times when I feel too tired to go on. I'm not inspired. I don't feel it today. But you know what? I know that I'm only one moment away from greatness. It's only about what is that idea? What is that vision for the future? What is it that I'm going to focus on that inspires me so much? It's a conscious decision what you focus on. So if you want to feel inspired, so well, you have to live a purpose-driven life. Okay, great. Fucking obviously, right? But the point is, how do you do that? How do you actually live a purpose-driven life? Well, it starts with identifying where you want to go. What is that destination you want to get to that's going to, when you think about that, it's going to make you so inspired. Like, if I could be doing that, I would jump out of bed every single moment because I just want to embrace that life. I'll do anything to live that life. That's where all success starts. Then from there, you have to work backwards. Well, how do I take that and make it into a reality based on where I am today? And then you have to draw out a roadmap to get there and all these things. But it starts with the future, the destination.
Joe, you know what I wanted to ask you, and I'm not letting you leave here without asking. You mentioned tired. If I put a Quaalude in front of you right now.
I take it right now.
In an absolute heartbeat.
Oh, well, I would because I haven't eaten in 4 hours. If I had eaten, I'd go vomit first and give myself an enema and then come back and take it.
They're that fucking good.
Yeah. And I'm sober for like 20-something years. I would still take one right now.
And what they portrayed in the movie is exactly what kind of takes over.
Jonah Hill did a really good job on that scene. Like, the Quaalude.
Right.
Steve Madden. It was what it was like. I coached them through that, by the way.
And why can't they get them anymore?
Thank God they're illegal. I mean, I'm happy they're not around.
They're that good.
They are that good. There's nothing like. They were great. They really were. They gave you this euphoric feeling with no hangover the next day.
So you wake up and you were just ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
But you couldn't take a Quaalude and then go work in the office, right?
No.
You had to be done for the day?
But you could take a Quaalude. So in the throes of my addiction, I would like to get high at least 4 times a day. So I would wake up at like 5 a.m. before my wife, take 4 Quaaludes. I'd go up and down.
Start.
Yeah, but then I'd be high as a kite between 5 and 7. Then she'd wake up. Then I'd be sober again. So that they don't, like, when they wear off, you're normal again. It's like alcohol where you're not sloppy and tired. Once it's over, it's over.
But there was shit in the middle to where start with the Quaalude, re-energize with cocaine.
Exactly.
So you were really just
like a Petri. I was balancing like a Petri dish. I was like a human Petri. 20 drugs, trying to find the perfect mixture so I get to a state of toxic poise where I was like just high as a kite, but only I knew it.
And your wife kind of just rolled with it?
She rolled with it because she dabbled. She did drugs too. She dabbled, all right? Not nearly as much as me, but I think she became desensitized to it after a while, like of how intense my addiction had become. And she also did help me get sober. Like she actually was the one that
So you credit a lot of that to her?
absolutely that my initial getting sober, I absolutely give her a big part. That she said no more, like I won't take it, I'll leave unless you get sober. And at that point, that was like I didn't want to split my family up. I still loved her. So yes, she was definitely instrumental in fueling my addiction and then getting me sober.
At the same time.
But I don't blame her for my addiction. And my addiction was on me, but she certainly was like a great running partner for many years. But she never abused it the way I did it. She
Right.
did drugs casually. I did them severely. And then when it got really, really bad, she did finally help me. She did put her foot down.
And the last question that I want to ask you, I'm not going to sit here and ask you to sell me a pen. I'm sure you've already got that a couple times by now. But if I hand you 100 Girl Scout cookies right now, do you still got it to where you could walk down Beverly Boulevard and crank those out in an hour?
Absolutely.
It stays in you?
Yeah, I could sell anything to anyone. I could. But more importantly than that, though, is that if when I was walking down Cannon maybe 3 weeks ago,
Did they get you with the Girl Scout cookies?
a little boy got me.
I bought
with,
5 Tangalongs.
I bought. He had a box of these chocolate bars, and he's like, "Mister, will you buy one bar?" I said, "How much?" He's
Little
like,
did he know who he was talking to.
I said, so someone told him. So what happened was, I said, how much for the whole box? He's like, $150. I gave him $200. I said, yeah, I took the box. And then people noticed it was me, and they said, that's Jordan. And the kid, they said, you know what that is? He's like, ah! He starts screaming. I swear, I wish I had it on video. So I was with my girlfriend at the time. It was the funniest things.
He could have sold you 50 fucking boxes.
Anytime I have either a lemonade stand, and everyone knows this to be true. That was in my neighborhood where I was living for many years. Any lemonade stand, any kid that's selling, they happen to catch me, I will literally drive around the block. I'll go out of my way. If I see a lemonade stand at the corner of my eye and I'm on the other side of the street, I will turn around and buy out all their lemonade or all their cookies or anything else. They're having toys, I'll buy every toy they have. Whatever they're doing, I'll buy everything they have.
Let me ask you something.
'Cause that was me.
Right.
I was that kid.
So you kind of you give back.
Yeah, and I had that. I tell you what, in closing, I had this lemonade stand. It was the greatest lemonade stand in the history of lemonade stands, right in front of my house.
Wasn't loaded with Quaaludes, was it?
No. It was these little girls, and for years, between 2017 to 2016 to 2019, these 3 cutest little 7 to 10-year-olds and their dad, and they made this lemonade stand. And first of all, the freaking tangerine juice, the lemon, it was so good. And they made cookies that were
The caviar at this thing.
it was ridiculous. And they had it designed with looked like a hut with a thatched roof and the sign and music playing. These little girls were so freaking cute, you could eat them up alive. They were that cute, these girls, right? And literally, it was the highest grossing lemonade stand in the history of lemonade stands.
motherfucker.
They had to be making $2,000 a day, these little
This
kids.
fucking Jordan Belfort.
And every single day I go by there and buy all their, they say, one day I was like, they're like, where were you? We went home, we had 4 cookies left. We expect you to buy all of I'm like, sorry, I was traveling. Yeah.
What if your kids say, Dad, I want to work on Wall Street? What would you say?
Whatever you want to do.
You'd be okay with it?
Absolutely. All I want from my kids is to be happy and to feel empowered. That's it. I don't care what they do. I don't care what they do, what their preferences are. I'm the most liberal, when it comes socially to things, I'm the most liberal person in the world. And I just want them to be happy. I'm very fortunate. I got 3 kids. They're all really successful and they're really happy. And I'm thankful for that.
And you could tell you seem happy as well. You really do. It's
No,
pretty
I am
amazing.
happy. I'm very happy.
After all you've been through, kind of where you are today. And, we like getting as much characters in here as possible. This is definitely on top of the list right here. So
I'm a character.
yeah.
So tell your people, by the way, I might as well sell something. As well as
Absolutely. Promote away. The stage is yours, Jordan.
I'm going to give you something for free. My podcast. I have a podcast, which is
Beautiful.
really great. I had Bob Mentoring on my podcast, who I love, by the way.
Character. He was in here. He's
the best.
great.
No, I have a podcast, which is really awesome. And at first it's interesting. When I first started my podcast, it's The Wolf's Den. You can go to just jordanbelfort.com.
Yeah, I was actually
It's on
watching it
Apple,
yesterday.
Spotify, everywhere, right? Anyway, but when I first started doing it, I tried a lot of different stuff because I was it's just a logical move. I want to see what guests my people liked and so forth, right? And I was doing well with it, and then I took a step back after like 4 months and okay, what's working, what people don't like, and the overarching comment I got was they wanted to hear me speak more. So I changed
Which you're pretty used to. That's not a problem for you.
And that wasn't surprising. So I changed the format now. So rather than having a guest, just interviewing a guest, I'll do a hybrid where I'll speak for about 20, 30 minutes myself, frame a certain topic, then I'll have a guest on that will crystallize that topic. And that's really, since then my podcast has just been soaring, and I'm really enjoying it now a lot. So I have it on once a week. It comes out, I think, Wednesday at like 2 a.m. in the morning, but and I release it only on audio to start.
I was watching it yesterday. I happen to like it a lot. I really do. I get an absolute kick out of you. And if I'm the producer of the show, I'm just handing you the mic and just saying, fucking go. We're bringing guys time to time. Let them speak.
So tonight I'm going to do one on coronavirus.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
I know. A lot of controversy. That's it.
Well, folks, stay tuned. Just an absolute pleasure. This was a wild ride for me. Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. We will see you next week, folks.